and welcome to the Farm Science Review edition of C.O.R.N Live. We're going to have an interesting and exciting group of people that are out on the review site this morning to give you a sneak peek of what you expect to see next week. So I want to introduce Nick Zachrich, manager of the Farm Science Review, and he's coming to us today from, looks like somewhere well above the review grounds today. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Mike. Yeah, it's nice. We have a few display bins on site from some of our exhibitors that give us some nice views for some good shots, some video and photos throughout the year. And here we are at the site. A lot of activity happening, a lot of equipment coming in. There's a lot more that's going to be coming in over the next few days and over the weekend to get prepared. And we have a great slate of information that's going to be provided this year through our extension and other educational partners. And so we're also excited to welcome our exhibitors back to the site once again. So we're really happy to be here on site. Of course, last year was virtual and was great, but it's so much better for us. And we just love being in person and being able to share everything with you and being able to see all this awesome technology that's coming around in the industry and providing some excellent opportunities for us to improve that bottom line. So Mike, I'm here on the site and can show you a little bit of everything if you want. But I'm just going to kind of pan around a little bit behind me so you can see what's going on. A lot of tents going up over the last couple of weeks and a lot of equipment coming in on the site. So happy to answer any questions you have.
Nick, just quickly, we're really glad to be back with a live review, but I think we need to make sure we have a clear understanding with all the different things related to COVID-19. Could you just briefly give us kind of what the Farm Science Review protocol will be so people understand when they walk on the grounds and what they can expect? Yeah,
I'd love to, Mike, because most people understand we're a department of Ohio State University, and there's a lot of rules that we have in place, safety guidelines and things, and everywhere you go there's a little bit different rules, and just want to make sure that everybody understands that there are some masking guidelines, but the great thing is we are an outdoor farm show. So being outdoors, there's a little bit more flexibility there if you're uncomfortable wearing a mask, or if you really prefer to wear a mask and stay at a distance from others. Either way, you can still have space to be able to do that and flexibility and the choice to do so. So if you are vaccinated and you're outdoors, you don't have to wear a mask. It's not required. But if you are unvaccinated, we are going to ask you to wear a mask if you can't distance yourself from others. And then also when we're inside buildings would be the big thing. So the only place that's really required to wear a mask is when it's completely enclosed inside a building or a tent, which most of our tents are open on the side. So that technically is considered outdoors if the tent sides are open. So as long as you have some good ventilation throughout there, not as big of a concern. The only concern would be the restroom areas where maybe they're more enclosed, where we'd ask you to wear a mask or it's required. So that's the biggest thing. So that's the only restriction we have right now is the mask. But if you do prefer to wear a mask, of course, you're obviously able to do that. But if you're uncomfortable wearing a mask, then just got to keep your distance from each other and hopefully you're vaccinated.
Well, thanks, Nick. And I like that nice lid. Is that the Farm Science Review official hat for this year?
It is. That's our official hat. So going around the site here during the show, if you find somebody wearing that hat, that probably means they're working and doing something either for Ohio State Extension or something just here for the show.
Well, I don't know exactly how many acres there is right there on the exhibit grounds, but I'm sure there's not going to be any problems keeping our social distance. So it really sounds like other thing we have to worry about now is the weather. So I know we didn't have Aaron on today, but let's not think about that. So we do appreciate all that you and your crew and staff does there. I know it's really more than just a 3-day job. I mean, you're year round there, and we do appreciate everything that you and your staff do to put on one of the best shows there is in the country.
Well, thanks, Mike. We know it takes a lot of people to make it happen, especially extension educators like yourselves and everybody else in the college and around the university helps make this happen. So it takes many more people than just our 7 full-time staff, but our staff does work hard. So we do appreciate the kind words and hope everybody comes out and joins us next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's all going to happen. So you don't want to miss that. There will be a few things virtual if you're not able to join us. That we have some FSR Live that our Professor Dr. Brooke Beam is going to be providing for us with her team, and then also some other things later on. So be checking our website and social media, and you'll find some things that you'll be interested in. So, and not just our social media, I'm sure throughout the Extension Network, all the different social media platforms there, the different channels, you're going to be able to find some information. So join us, whether it's virtual or in person. We hope that you can come and join us and that you're healthy and well, that you can do that. And if you can't, then we'll see you in 2022.
Yeah, I would just think to remind anyone who is either online this morning or who may review this before the review that tickets are still available in all the county extension offices for $7, and they'll be sold up until Monday. Is that correct, Nick? Or do we have till Friday? So
Yep,
up until Monday, you can buy the discounted ticket for $7. After that, they're $10 at the gate. So again, thank you again very much, Nick. So I'm going to swing it over to the other side of Friday Avenue, and we're going to take a visit into the agronomy plots. We have with us today Jason Hartshoe. And Jason, why don't you give us a quick preview of all the different things that visitors to the review this coming year can see in the plots?
All right, thanks, Mike. I want to thank Amanda Doritas. She's actually out in the plots, so I didn't have to make the 2-hour trip down to kind of show you how the plots are doing out there this year. We've worked hard to put a lot of different things together. Right now, she's actually in a set of plots where we applied herbicide, residual herbicides. There's a block for corn herbicides and a block for soybean herbicides. And we planted 5 popular cover crops: C.O.R.N rye, crimson clover, hairy vetch, radishes, and oats are planted out there. Looking at how all of those cover crops grow through the herbicide treatments. That's one challenge growers talk to us a lot about, is that their cover crop doesn't grow. And one reason for that is sometimes residual herbicides. So to help producers look at some of those different herbicides and how they may affect those 5 popular cover crops, we put out some plots that can be viewed during the review and see once how each one of those herbicides affected those 5 different cover crops. As Amanda continues to move through the plots, we'll keep the tour here. You can see the tents are set up. Within the tents, that's the small tent at the far end. You can see the big top, which is the other tent. We're going to have a lot of different displays set up in there. We have the extension water quality team coming down, and they will have some setup and display in there. We're actually going to have in the big tent, each morning you can come in and enter for the chance to win a high accuracy tire pressure gauge. The reason for that is one of the other areas we're focusing on this year is compaction. The compaction area, we're going to have some different tractors parked in loose soil from that area, and talking about why tire design matters today. And then some other areas here, we have this area, which is BT corn. One challenge we're finding across the state is some of our BT traits are failing. So we planted a block here of a certain BT variety, and we're going to have the ability to work with producers on learning how to actually test their crop to see once if it's expressing the BT trait. So we have a block of corn planted where producers will be able to go find some green leaves, bring them into the tent, and one of the extension educators that's working in there will work with them on testing that corn to see if it's actually expressing the BT trait. Because while BT traits, a few of them are failing slightly, we also have a challenge where some environmental conditions seem to cause the plant not to express the trait like we would have expected. Right beside that block's another block we're really excited about. We actually went in and we inoculated ears with gibberella ear rot, which causes that vomitoxin. And if you look close, you see that blue ribbon in there. Those are the inoculated ears. And then we went in, we treated with a fungicide, Mirvis Neo, to see once how fungicide timing affects that ability to control ear rot. We were down there last Tuesday, pulled some, or this Tuesday, past Tuesday, pulled some ears for a CCA agronomy college. And we could see some really exciting differences between our treatment timings and just the fact that the fungicide did really work. So comparing our untreated check to our 3 treatment timings, I think that's one you're definitely going to want to stop down and check out if you've had any issues in the past with that gibberella ear rot, ever had corn get docked for vomitoxin. There's some exciting things we're learning and providing you guys with through that demonstration block. Right beside that, we actually interseeded cover crops. You can see a little bit of them, depending where you're at the beginning. Some of them survived very well through the shaded corn plants. Some of them, the darkness caused by our good corn yields this year killed off those cover crops. But the good thing there is, if you're looking at interseeding cover crops, you can kind of look at our different cover crop species. I believe we planted 11 different species. sequence how they survived, and kind of make some decisions on what you want to plant on your own farm so that you don't have a disaster where you planted it and then the shade from your good high yielding corn crop smothered that cover crop out and you're unhappy with the results. On the back side of those cover crops, as Amanda spins around, we're starting a new area of perennial forages, and those perennial forages are kind of an exciting area we're adding in. There's a lot of producers that ask us about alfalfas, red clovers, and some different grass species. So we planned some demonstrations out there to kind of show those species, be able to talk with producers about what those species are, some species identification, and even why you may choose to go back to planting red clover if you haven't grown it as a forage in a long time. That's a new set of plots we'll have for a few years, but definitely one to stop and take a look at. As Amanda trudges through the corn up to the front for us, she's definitely getting her workout. Hopefully that wasn't as foggy down there as it is up here, so the corn isn't soaked. But as she moves up to the front, we have a block of soybeans. In that block of soybeans, we put in a nice group of plots. Right now, as she gets up there, it's going to look a lot like just soybeans on the camera, but it's something to come out and take a look at. So the first section we have to kind of focus on is where we put on ammonium sulfate to do a sulfur treatment on the soybeans. Visually, we can't really tell a difference above ground between those soybeans, but below ground, we did some root digs when we were down there Tuesday on those soybeans that had sulfur, and we had a little bit bigger root system, a few more root nodules where that sulfur had been applied. The next section over from there, we have in a set of plots to discuss soybean seeding rates. The big thing you're going to notice when you come down and see our seeding rate plots is we have a minor lodging problem. So as we went over 180,000, our top plot I think was 220 or 240, and there's lodged soybeans in there. The lower populations aren't lodged, they're very branched. You'll be able to look at some of that plant architecture. One demonstration that matured a little bit too quick on us as Amanda continues to move through that for us. You're going to notice some brown soybeans. We had planned to have a demonstration. There's some new technologies coming in soybean breeding of an aphid resistant soybean. It's not that the aphids killed our aphid resistant soybeans. They were an earlier maturity group. We didn't quite put that all together. It was the only variety we could get a hold of. And they actually just matured on us. So we won't have that part. As we look into the future, we got another exciting section coming. It's really not there yet. So we had to seed these plots or infect them where the soybeans are turning here on the end that Amanda's walking past right now. We'll have some information on soybean cyst nematode management. But in the future, we're going to have some really nice soybean cyst nematode plots coming into this area. There's the big top tent where we're going to have all of our different educational displays set up within there, Brown Agronomy. We're actually going to have some virtual tours set up in there. We're going to have a couple different TVs playing some educational videos, and then there's going to be an interactive TV that's touchscreen. You can come in and you can take a visit up to our Northwest Research Station or our Western Research Station and see some of the projects that are going on there that we couldn't bring to the review this year. And then our last block here is our compaction block. The corn over there, we simulated pinch row compaction in. And then we're going to bring in some equipment, different tire inflations, and park here in this loose soil and show how that footprint, that inflation pressure really affects the footprint that your tire is going to have. And then have a discussion and have some information around the importance of ballasting tractors to make our tires work properly when we move to these low inflation pressures. And also making sure that we actually have a tire gauge that can handle a low inflation pressure and be accurate. While the tires may be designed for 9 PSI and work really well there and get us a larger footprint, better flotation, we have an inaccurate gauge and that tire is actually at 7 PSI, so we could do some real damage to the tire itself, and that could be very expensive. So there's a lot going on out there. There's probably at least one thing that'll pique just about everybody's interest at the show. We really look forward to seeing everyone stop out, just spend a few minutes visiting with us. If you didn't pick up or haven't been to a meeting this year and been able to get a eFields on-farm research book, this is a location where you can stop out, pick up one of those to view a lot of the different research projects that have been going on around the state to help improve your operation. So look forward to seeing everybody next week. And thanks, Amanda, for taking us on the tour.
Amanda, and thanks, Jason. So we also have Nate Duritas on, and he's out at the site where they'll be doing the field demos this year. So Nate, if you're on, can you let us know a little bit about the field demos for this year, what we can expect, and what equipment we'll have out?
Yeah, certainly, Mary. Thanks for joining us today out here. We're actually in one of the setup fields this morning. We've got our 790 combine behind us from John Deere, and been 5 days into corn harvest here. We haven't been able to touch any soybeans yet, but it's pretty foggy here, as you probably saw in the video and Jason's comments. Normally the grain facility would be in the background behind the combine, but you cannot see it. So just a little bit of background on where we have come from to get to this point today. If you remember, we've been on a few different times here, and in both cases, we had a really good growing season going, and our finish was also strong. So we're really encouraged by some of the yield potential that's out here. And I'll show you a few things that kind of indicate that that's the case, and hopefully you'll be able to experience some of that in your area. Early there in the season, we started in late April, and we started planting soybean demo fields, followed immediately by some corn demo fields. So that last week of April, typically a good planting week for us. And this year we were able to sneak in and get just about all those acres in. To this point, we've had 20 inches of rainfall from that planting date to last week, when we finally would consider all those early maturing cornfields and soybean fields for demos to be at that maturity point. So just over 20 inches of rainfall. August for us this year was incredibly moist. It was spread out well enough that we didn't have any water ponding or anything like that to create damage, but 8 inches of rainfall in August is just not our norm. You know, a lot of times we're lucky to get 2 rain events and total an inch to 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. So that's kind of a snapshot of our growing season here. As you drive around, you'll kind of see that the grass is still green and lush. The trees are all still holding on to their leaves. Corn plants are all still green, at least most of them from the ear up. And soybean fields that are not have not been early maturing varieties are still holding on to quite a bit of green and yellow. So to get us to this point, it's been a great season. We've got a lot of stuff to do to finish it. When you come out to the grain site and other field demonstrations, you know, you'll be able to see everything that you normally can during Farm Science Review. And that's going to be, you know, our combines are going to run. We're the only farm show that runs both corn and soybean harvest. So as your machines are typically in both corn and soybeans, we want to make sure that the ability is here for you to visit with those folks, see headers, ask about combine adjustments, and talk to those equipment companies one-on-one. You can do that. We've also got tillage, everything from minimum disturbance. We've got strip till, we've got disc rippers. You know, make sure you spend time, you look at how the tools are running, what's available now. If you haven't been looking at those, there's a lot of technology paired to those tillage pieces, and speak to those folks as they run corn Tuesday and Wednesday, and then on Thursday for tillage will be on soybean stubble. And I mentioned strip till. Strip till is becoming a little bit more popular again here. We'll have several companies represent strip till equipment. There'll be a few of those in field demonstrations, and make sure you spend some time and take a look at that if you haven't been familiar with strip till, or it's been a while since you have kind of been following there. With that, there's Ag Innovation. We've got the Ag Innovation tent sitting right there across from the Gwynn Conservation Area. You can see everything from drone technology that's you know, doing field scouting for you, creating application maps, actually doing some application. We've got a company here that specializes in that. We've got things like turn automation from a couple of the companies, demonstrating some of the new automation technology that's available in tractors today. We've also got the autonomous grain cart from Raven. So the Precision Agri-Service team will be out doing a live demonstration of that. It'll run several times during the day, but you'll be able to see that with no operator in the grain cart. So kind of be a neat piece. You can see that up close, and excited to have those folks here. But again, spend some time in demos, work your way around the grain facility, and just really happy to have you guys here. I'll mention a couple things here on harvest, since we're kind of talking about harvest and pre-harvest. We like to come to the field with three things in mind, and they all start with C. So the 3 C's for us to get started are calibrations, combines, and compaction. And with all of those, we've got something that we can focus on. So with the combine, calibrations is very important to us. We've got 3 ways that we can help calibrate our machine here. And it just takes a little time, but to encourage everybody to take the time and do that. The yield results that we get from a crop year like this are just as important as the other years. And it puts valuable piece of information back into the system that we can continue to work on ROI, improve yields, and work on those soil zones. But we've got our grain carts, we've got a scale at our grain facility, and we've got seed tenders. All of those are outfitted with a scale where it really simplifies the amount of time it takes to run a calibration on a combine and dial these things in. Now, this one also has what's called active yield, which is an automatic yield calibration system. We fill the grain tank several times and we stop and unload it, and we can get that thing dialed in really close, but it's no substitute for the manual calibrations in some cases, where we can really get that thing zoned in acre by acre, field by field. The grain cart, as I mentioned, is one important piece for us. Grain cart here today has tracks on it. That the piece of that story that we have to bring to the field is compaction. And as equipment gets larger, grain tanks and grain carts get larger, we have to manage compaction when we go to the field. So as you're out here and you've got grain carts running around, remember that a lot of that, the majority of that compaction is done on the first pass. So we control our traffic when we're in the field to a degree. You know, there's a lot of ability to do that these days. We actually can run some tram line type setups where we'll cut lands and the grain cart stays in the middle land as we work our way across the field. Everything we do to work on compaction in the field at harvest will help us in the future. And then combines, as I mentioned, combine here today, the 790 is outfitted with a lot of stuff. We bring it to the field ready for corn harvest, but today we hope to eventually switch over and do some soybeans. There's a lot of aftermarket concaves that are available out there. There are also several options available from your manufacturer. So as we go into a high yielding year like this, and potentially some wet crop, make sure that you've got the right set of concaves and you've got some support from your dealer, and you kind of know how you need to be set up here. This one also has some additional automation on it. The automation on this machine is an auto maintain. If you're not familiar with that, there are a few cameras on here. And these cameras are on the elevators on the machine, looking at a combination of things like tailings, clean grain, and then pair those with the other sample sensors on here. They will work to maintain the machine setting that you call your desirable setup. So with that, you essentially tell it that you're good to go, and it's going to maintain that setup that you had, grain quality, minimal loss, balancing the kernels in the grain tank with foreign material, and it'll adjust those as you work your way across the field and into the different fields. So that's a piece that we like to bring to the field with us, and it really does provide some value on an operator, especially with these long days that we run. A few things here just to wrap up on the corn. As I mentioned, the yield potential is going to be really good for us this year in our area with the August rainfall and the seasonal pattern that we had this year. So we're pretty excited. We've been in the fields here for about 5 days now. We're 110 acres in. We've got a few whole fields that we have harvested, but a lot of headlands and stuff. So a lot of our potential is coming from a really strong finish. We execute the same plan just about every year, but this year we were finally able to finish that off. I'll just summarize here about a few things. Make sure you're out scouting fields and prioritizing. as I mentioned, if you look at this crop, it's starting to be very brown on the bottom, yet green on top. And it will fool you a little bit because this corn harvested yesterday was in that 21 to 23% range, though it looks like it would be much wetter. So make sure you're out grabbing some ears, getting some moisture readings, and figuring out where you need to be on your schedule. And also, if you experience some things like tar spots and anthracnose and things like that, make sure you're checking fields on a regular basis. We don't want to have a windstorm event come in here and take away this crop before we actually get it to the bin.
Thanks, Nate.
Mary, with that, I'll open it up to any more questions or comments.
Thanks, Nate. I don't see any questions at the moment, but if you do have any questions for Nate or any of these guys, you can put them down in the Q&A box and we'll get to those. I know Amanda has a combine setup field day later today. So since Nate was mentioning combine setup, Amanda, do you want to tell us the details of that field day today for anyone interested?
Sure. We are going to be meeting at the northwest corner of Her and Clark Roads, north of Urbana. That's right off of US 68, north of town. And we'll start at 1 p.m. So Jason and Elizabeth are actually going to be there with me doing that. We'll walk over a John Deere combine. Then they have a Klaus machine that they're using in the field. So we'll harvest a little bit and look at yield loss. We'll talk about yield monitor calibration, and then actually measure and calculate what we're seeing come out of the combine in the front and the back. Talk about some safety tips and some of those things that Nate touched on a little bit too. So again, 1 p.m., hoping to finish up about 3:30. And it is listed under events on our agcrops.osu.edu page if you want to see the details and see a map of where it's at. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Amanda. And thanks again to Nate for joining us this morning. I know it's a busy day for Nate and Nick, and we really appreciate you guys getting on and sharing with us today. So Nate mentioned the area across the street from the Going Conservation area where they'll have some precision ag equipment demos and things like that. Elizabeth Hawkins is on this morning, and she's on the team that sort of organizes all of that. So Elizabeth, if you'd want to let us know what we can expect out there and where to find it, that would be great.
Yeah, so the Ag Innovation demos are just one of the places that you can find the digital ag team at Farm Science Review. Like Nate said, the Ag Innovation demos are a place you can come and see some of the latest ag technology in action in the field. You can see the map here on the screen. We are located northwest of the main show area, and those demonstrations are going to start at 12:30. So if you want to come out and see those, you're going to hop on the shuttle that you can see. There we go, right here at the west end of the show area, and that'll take you straight to us. I think we're the first stop. Some of the things Nate mentioned that you'll be able to include, if I can get it to play, several of those drone demonstrations, drone spraying being one of them. Also some drone scouting, including intra-canopy, which is something new that we've been working on here at Ohio State. And then if you want to see some more action with the digital ag team, you can hop back on the shuttle and head out to the regular field demonstrations where you'll be able to find members of the eFields team. We'll be handing out ice cold waters, which if the weather forecast holds, that's going to be something you're going to want. But you'll also be able to chat with those team members about on-farm research that we're conducting at Ohio State. So we're definitely looking forward to seeing you guys at the show this year.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Review next week at the Farm Science Review, September 21st through 23rd. And it looks like it's going to be a beautiful week, good weather, and we'll have a lot of fun stuff going on. So looking forward to seeing all of you and to being back in person at the Farm Science Review next week.